Well, hello there. What's good? Welcome to another episode of CUZZO-OP, the 56th episode to be precise. My name is Isaiah, and I am one of the hosts here at CUZZO-OP. And as usual, I am joined by my brother and my cousin,
Willie, also known as Arrow.
And we're excited, as usual, a couple geeks over here at CUZZO-OP, always talking about video games, always talking about TV shows. And today, this afternoon, whenever you're listening, we want to talk about movies. If you've been following with us and you listened to season 1, 2023 episodes of CUZZO-OP, you know that we did an episode right before Oppenheimer that we called Christopher Nolan. We said, let's go through his entire filmography. Let's talk about all the different movies, his relationship with time, his themes, his shots, his cinematography, his pacing, because it felt like the best way to build up anticipation for Oppenheimer. And it was so good. It was so great. We felt like when we were in the movie, you could see so much because we had studied his films. We went back, watched what we didn't watch, refreshed if we hadn't seen something from him in a while. And we decided it's time to do this again. And it is because another giant in the director game right now, especially for our generation, has a huge film that has already been released. As of this upcoming weekend, there are already people who have seen this movie that are talking about it all over the internet. So if you are on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, anywhere, duck, because there are people saying so much. We want to talk about Denis Villeneuve and Dune 2, which is coming up. We decided let's talk through his entire filmography. And there's actually a lot, right, Willie?
Yeah, there's a lot because, Nolan, right? He had Following, where he pulled up and he was like, Following, and then bam, he exploded onto the scene. He did Memento, he did Insomnia, he did all of those, right? Where here we have a situation where there's a lot of more of those smaller pieces and pictures kind of moving. And so we're going to really stick to like 6 main films that most people didn't, know him for in this aspect. And with all of his other films, we just want to quickly say, like, there are pieces of what has turned him into such a big director, right? Found in those films. But like Ivy said, there's so many of them that we want to focus on these major 6 that we're going to be speaking about here tonight. Not to state those other ones are bad, not important. No, they are. We need the time in the room to go into the other 6 properly.
Yeah, if there's one thing you know about Denis, it's that no detail in any scene is done without thought. That there's depth in a way, as we'll talk about, a certain scene is shot. It's saying so much. He's a big director that believes that the script isn't the only way to tell the story, that a lot of times dialogue missing and it just being a shot says so much. And so we're going to have a lot to talk about, even just in those 6 movies. But I want to talk to you, Willie, about what you feel about Denis, right? Like I've openly said in a lot of forums, including CUZZO-OP, that Christopher Nolan is my favorite director of all time. What he does and the way he does it, I think it's the best in the game. I just really do. I think he's amazing. So when it comes to Denis, it's like, this guy is a close second, man. There isn't a specific piece of content that hasn't taken my breath away. Everything he does is thought-provoking. So what's your thoughts, man? Do you like Denis? Were you familiar with his films before the challenge of having to get them all done before this episode? Like, what's up with your relationship with him?
I had a lot less to do for this episode compared to Nolan.
Sure.
Here's what I'll say, right? I don't think he's for me.
Wow.
I don't think the movie genre that he is known for is for me, maybe to be more specific.
Interesting. Okay. What do you mean by that?
He's a big sci-fi guy, sci-fantasy, and I've noticed I'm not really into those movies, Yes, I'm into Star Wars. If you're on YouTube,
bro,
you see
got a
all this.
On you.
Star Wars right here. But I don't know. That feels different than traditional sci-fi, where those sci-fi is like technology and mind bending. This is fantasy in the sense of this is just a beautiful, like crazy world to explore. But so I don't know if he's for me, he's not my number 2, right? I know that. So watching some of his films, I'm like, I can see the appeal, but it's not doing much for me. So I'm interested to go back and forth tonight and speak about some of these movies with you. And I think you'll hear with what my favorite of his traditional films are, how it completely makes sense that he's not my type of director. But I think he makes beautiful films. I want to put that out there in the sense of like, they look good, especially his later, more recent films. Beautiful. They look good. He has a style to him that I respect. I respect his movie making style, the questions that he puts into your mind with his movie style, and the choices. Like, I can sit there and analyze a movie and I think it's brilliant. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say, oh, I love him, because I'm going to be honest. I think out of all the films I've seen of his, there's only one that I will sit and say, yo, watch that.
That's crazy. Well, as usual, you're going to get a polarizing conversation from us here at CUZZO-OP. Sometimes we see things very eye to eye. This is one of those moments where I think Denis and Nolan they're like the J. Cole and Kendrick of directing right now, to me, in my opinion. I just think they have an understanding of film and cinema in their generation of directors that I just think at the level that they play at, the access they have production wise, the money that studios will give to them for what they do, they're not bad at stewarding that. They steward it very well, and they continue to push film forward. And I think I think that's why I like them so much. Like, they're for me because of that. It can be in any medium, which we'll talk about tonight. We'll talk about that. Yes, sci-fi is where Denis lives. That's definitely his thing, but he has also veered into some other places. Yeah. So I'm excited about that conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, even if it's not for me, studios, if they could get my mans in their grit and say, yo, make us a movie, they should do it.
Oh yeah.
Same way they were with Nolan. Like, this guy, I can say he's not for me while also saying I will low key be there for every film he makes, because it feels like a different class level than some other movie making things going on currently. So, like, respect, not for me, but respect all the way.
Absolute. Well, then let's get the conversation started. So as Arrow said, we can't do all of his movies. So there's a good 4 different movies that came out before the major 6 that he was widely recognized for. August 32nd on Earth, Maelstrom, Polytechnique, and Indendies. All 4 of them have a sci-fi notion to them. They do show some of his preliminary exercises that he then got stronger in the muscles of as these movies go on. And so I've only seen 2 of them, but seeing analyses of a lot of all 4 of them, actually, for the purposes of this episode. And the big thing here is what I said earlier. Denis believes the dialogue does not need to be upfront in order for a story to be told. That's his big thing. He's big on the way the camera and the cinematography tells the story equally to the way it's written. And he mastered that amidst these 4. So definitely recommend going back. I will go back and I'm going to watch them before Dune 2. I think just because I want to be in that mode where I'm like, let's go. I'm thinking the way this man's thinking it when I'm in the theater. But let's jump into the first film. I want to look at Prisoners, man. Prisoners, bro. We got Jake Gyllenhaal. We got Hugh Jackman. We got Terrence Howard. We got Paul Dano. Right? Paul Dano? And then we got the homeboy that what's his name? The dude who plays the crazy guy that Two-Face Harvey Dent's about to shoot in the abandoned warehouse in Dark Knight.
He's in everything ever, right? I forget how to say his name.
That dude crazy.
He's a brilliant actor. Like, because of how much he's in, you always just know him as that guy. He's Polka Dot Man. Yes. Suicide Squad. He's Zaz in Gotham. He was on Flash a few times. He was in Dune, which we'll get to speak about, right? But
he's everywhere.
It's like Das. I don't want to butcher the last name. I can't even do it. He's an Ant-Man. Y'all know who we talking about, bro. He cool. He's cool.
He very much is cool. This is a 2013 film that had a dark thriller concept. It was during a time when This was the kind of movie that was really big between 2013 and like 2017. A lot of these dark thrillers, people disappearing, being killed. These were kind of, for whatever reason, the movies that were rising to the top of the charts. And he made a statement right out the gate with this movie. I would argue this movie changed a lot for him as a director. I know a lot of people who did not see this movie yet that are just seeing it now as Dune is getting kicked up, which I think is crazy, or now that it's on streaming services. But man, when I tell you, my bro, this movie gave me nightmares, actual nightmares in college. I was not able to sleep.
Wow.
That is how eerie this film was for me.
Yeah.
And I know if I went back and watched it as a dad, I'd be sick. So I don't even go. I didn't even rewatch it.
Has your wife seen this?
She saw it with me. We watched it for the first time together, and we both just couldn't. We were just stuck.
You should do it again.
We were just stuck together, just on the couch, stuck. Looking at each other like,
you were shook.
Shook, bro.
Yeah.
You know, and for those that don't remember just the synopsis, we've got kids that are taken. We got a kid that's taken, and from both families, two families that live in the same neighborhood. We've got a detective that's very dark and has his own demons, played by Gyllenhaal, that is trying to figure out and solve this mystery of these missing kids in this neighborhood in Pennsylvania. Hugh Jackman's one of the dads. Terrence Howard's one of the dads. These people are pushed to the end of themselves, into their darkness, in the pursuit of trying to figure out where their kids are. They're losing themselves. And the big thing with Denis right out the gate, the movie is called Prisoners. What are these characters truly in the jail of? What are they really prisoners to?
Yeah.
This question's at the forefront of the movie the whole time. Talk to me, bro. When you saw this one, when did you see it? What was your experience? Like, how do you feel about this film?
Number one, I'm going to say right out the gate, this is my favorite film from this director.
Okay, good to know.
This is number one. This is the movie that I say, even if it's outside of just talking about the director, yo, have you ever seen Prisoners? Because I love these type of movies. It's what actually drives me to watch a lot of David Fincher's stuff, which we got to do an episode on him. But this is my style. This is my type of genre. And so the concept of Prisoners, I was attached to the movie. I saw a poster. It might be my favorite poster of this movie, where it's just Hugh Jackman on the cover, but he's behind a cell. And it's not, the whole poster isn't a cell. It's just the outline silhouette of Hugh. So it's Hugh's face and then just bars in front of him. And that told me, like, he isn't a prisoner, literally, but mentally he is going to be. And so when I jumped into this movie, realistic, dark, gritty, I'm thinking to myself, like, this is going to be real. This is going to be kind of crazy to watch. It's going to be a hard watch. And it was a hard watch for many reasons. Number one, the concept of someone, right? Because I'm not going to dive into spoilers just yet, because it's part of a mystery movie, right? That's the fun. Going around and taking these children, right? You're like, oh, shoot, that feels so real. But then they dive deeper into what a father would do for his kid, right? And it's funny that this came out around the same time as The Last of Us, right? These are these themes that they were going on in 2013. It's why people wanted Hugh Jackman to play Joel. This is the movie, which to me,
yeah.
I'm not like that, because I'm like, he played that character already in Prisoners. You know what I'm saying? But
right. But a lot of people didn't know about it, man. That's what it
true.
is.
So to go into the mind of each character in this movie and see, so Hugh is a prisoner to this whole thing. He's trying to find his kid, right? Meanwhile, Terrence Howard is on a different perspective of like, yo, bro, we can't do this. He's not willing to stoop down to the levels that Hugh is doing, right? Even Paul Dano. Some of Paul's scenes are the hardest to watch in this movie because of how real it feels. There's a scene in the movie where it just involves a peephole and the light that you can see through the peephole. That scene is hard to watch for me because I'm like, yo, that's real. So I don't even want to spoil Prisoners just for anybody who's not here, but like,
True.
I'm going to say, give me like 30 seconds, maybe click towards a minute. If you're listening and you don't want to hear spoilers, I'm going to do it. 3, 2, 1. The end bit of the movie where it's flipped and you find out who the real kidnapper is and that she's been doing this already and that, oh shoot, the movie ends with the whistle and you're like, oh, they found the kids, but now Hugh's the prisoner, but at least he did what he did. He's dying, but the whistle, did he or did he not? That ending also, it's very Nolan-like, right? That's cool. All right, I'm done talking about the ending. If you skip 30 seconds, you might be hearing this right now. I don't know if IV's going to go in. He'll give you his own spoiler warning. I just like the real of the movie. I like the real gritty nature.
Yeah.
And yeah, it hyped him up. It hyped him up as a director. This gave him the platform he needed to make everything else. And I love that for him. But this is where I'm at.
I think maybe it's just a bias. Again, it could be just from a respect standpoint. But my favorite type of directors, I was telling my boys about this just the other night. Shout outs Timmy, shout outs George. My favorite types of directors are the ones that when they end a film, it leaves you talking about what the ending is. Do you think, what does that mean? You know, and Nolan is a master at this. You know, is the top still spinning? Was it reality? Was it not? Was Alfred bugging and seeing things? Or did Batman really not die and he actually completed the plan of getting out of there with Catwoman? Like those kinds of concepts, Denis is it's not a strange thing for him. That's what he actually works toward. I think that he compiles this depth and then throughout the film, he unearths it in ways that's very real. And every time you go back, you find more. And that in itself is a bar if you've seen a movie, to be honest. When you get to the conclusion of the film, it leaves you with this, and then you just sitting there. And I'll take it back to what I said earlier. What I really think is crazy about this film is how dark it is. It's really unafraid to talk about how dark we can get within our own souls as humans. And I think that that's something I enjoy about Denis. This movie was the first place where I realized he can do it. And then I think because it hit so hard, everything from this point onward, because this is the one I saw that took me on the journey. You know, I saw this one first, then saw all the rest. So I really started here.
Yeah, same here. And I couldn't even tell you when I watched this. I'm talking years ago. I was in high school still, so that's before 2018. Like,
yeah, I realized like this dude knows how to tell a human story. Now, I also want to say this is where I realized the whole thing about the visuals. There's a scene here where Hugh Jackman's sitting in the car and the shot is a reflection of a tree on Hugh Jackman in the car, and it's raining and the tree is on him. And the shot is right lined up with his head. And I'm pretty sure a poster on this concept is there too, where it just looks like confliction is on the character. The branch is going a ton of different ways with mayhem. It suggests to you as the viewer that this person is lost in his mind. And he uses a lot of themes like this throughout the entire film. The concept of trees. There's a lot of long shots on just straight up wood and the layers of it. There are long shots into inanimate objects. And you think they're just like, what's that for? B-roll and a flick? No, every single shot is intentional. This is where I started to realize that. Another thing I started to realize about my man is Denis chooses the names of his characters very intentionally as well. You know, Jake Gyllenhaal as the detective, he is Detective Loki. We're not strangers to Loki here at CUZZO-OP. Strangers to this anti-hero, this hero that believes himself to be something that gets him a dark name, but ultimately journeys to become a hero in the long run, like in Norse mythology. And that's who this is for Jake Gyllenhaal. He's a dark guy. He's a guy who comes from a dark place. He has his Freemason deep thinking ring on the whole time that speaks to who he is as a deep thinker without us having to actually be heard. Well, Loki is a deep thinker. It doesn't say that, bro. It's on the ring. And then you just watch. And I really love in this film the way that Jake and Hugh, they go off of each other with these two different kind of ends. Jake is like, I'm really dark out here, bro. I've really seen some things, bro. You think you're built like this? You might have had your dance with alcohol, but I'm from this land. Like, let me unearth your kid from the underworld. I'm from here. And he was like, nah, I'm gonna do it. I don't care how low I gotta get. I don't care who's the warden, who's the prison. I don't give a, like, he's really on that energy. And the two of them and the way they go back and forth. I just love the sacrifice of Hugh as a character, Dover as a name. Look that up. Go look up Dover because his name is Keller Dover. Go look up what the Dover last name is. Start to dig into the analysis with me. You'll see how deep this rabbit hole gets when it comes to Denis. He's very intentional. I love this film, man. I just think it is it's the actual thing that's happening, the reason why this goes down, the plot that's at the center. When that twist occurs and you realize why these people do what they do or why this person does what they do, I'll keep it ambiguous. It's hard to stomach, man. It's really hard to stomach, but it's very believable because there are people who actually get to this dark place for real.
Yeah. I mean, I got to recommend this to my pops.
Yeah, you should. I think it's like on the borderline of like horror almost.
He would love this as mystery too. But, this is a movie that made me appreciate all of the actors in this film more than I already did. And it introduced me to some others. Hugh Jackman, at the time of me watching that movie, I had only known him as Logan. And so that was a great performance from him. Unfortunately, like film bros have taken over that role of Dover as one of the greatest acting performances of all time. And if you enjoy it, you're a film bro. But I mean, like, I enjoy it. Like I do. I'm not going to let the film bros ruin that for me. Gyllenhaal, I mean, this might be a hot take. I might be stupid for saying this, bro, but I feel like he is still a very underappreciated actor in the year 2024 when he really shouldn't be. Like, I don't understand how he's put in performances in many different areas and still, like, you don't hear about him the way you do of any of the Chris's, and any RDJ or anything like that. Like, I feel like he is probably the most overlooked of these more like modernish stars. I'm like, bro, what's up with that, bro? Why is he Maggie Gyllenhaal's brother? Like, that sounds kind of crazy. And Terrence Howard, bro, I mean, I never really cared for Terrence Howard, bro. And this was the movie where I was kind of like, yo, I actually kind of like you. I feel like you delivered something different than what I typically see from you. He's one of those actors where, for me, it felt like, yo, you always kind of hop in and do the same thing. So here, contrasting Hugh Jackman, I was like, I'll give you this one. And then Paul, this was the movie where I was like, he's kind of crazy. This is my first time ever seeing him. Yeah. But like, it's kind of sad the way you were able to play this. So when he was announced for Riddler, for Batman, I was like, ooh, that's the guy from Prisoners. I can't wait to see that. So
you need to check out Mr. and Mrs. Smith, latest thing with Paul Dano. He's creepy, bro. He's just a creepy dude. He plays creepy, but intriguing very well. He doesn't have to do anything much. It's little twitches he'll do with his lips, little things he does with his eyes. They get beady in the way he holds a facial expression. It's just very good, man. He's a great actor. Freaking Viola Davis is in this movie, and she kills it too as the wife that's pushing Terrence to go beyond himself in his, you better get that. I gotta go appease my wife while also trying to hold my man's back while also wanting to find my daughter. It's crazy, bro. It's really crazy what they push, the boundaries they push in that film.
That's true. That's true. Good. Here, for you on YouTube, I'm gonna try my best to let you see this. This is the poster I was talking about.
Oh yeah.
That joint goes crazy.
That goes stupid. Yeah,
that's a crazy poster. So you could see why I was like, I gotta get into that, bro. And bro's name that we gonna mention again, dear Lord, it's David Dost. We're gonna call him David Dost right now. But if you start to type that in on Google, you'll know who we talking about.
Absolutely. Well, that's Prisoners, man. Highly recommend. If I had to give it a rating, I would give that joint a 9.5 out of 10. Easy.
9. Yeah. Like, and I couldn't even tell you why it's missing the 10.
Yeah.
It's
just like, cause I'm scared to give it a 10, but it's like up there, you know?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one now. I don't think this will be as long as a conversation because this is one of those ones people don't even know exists. In 2013, another film toward the back end of the year, they came out with Jake Gyllenhaal. Now we get these repeat offenders. We know Nolan, Denis, they like working with the same actors because they know what they can do and they know how to write for those particular actors as well. That's something that's important to them. They've said in interviews. So Denis loves Gyllenhaal. We know this. So Enemy. We're talking about a neo-noir surrealist psychological thriller, very in the brain, thoughty, abstract. This is when we get a very abstract Denis directing. Did you see this one?
I have.
Okay.
And I know I wanted to die.
I know because you don't like spiders.
I wanted to die.
I am so sure. What did you think about that?
I don't even. You go first, bro.
I just think this film, man, this is one of those ones that it has all of the foreign film vibes throughout the whole flick. It's an American film, obviously, but it is definitely the French vibe, the foreign dynamic in its pacing and what it's talking about, how abstract it's willing to get with the filmography. It's not everybody's cup of tea whatsoever. And this is probably my least favorite from Denis, if I'm honest.
Probably me too. But I have a thing. I'm not going to lie. I just, by the end of the movie, I wanted to cry. Yeah. Especially the end of the movie. The end of the movie pissed me off. It pissed me off. Not even because it's not bad. It wasn't a bad movie. I just, I got my thing with spiders. And by the end of that movie, I wanted to die inside. But it's dealing with stuff, man. It's dealing with things that I feel like people could find some interest in. In fact, this movie was the only one of these that I had to go out of my way to find. I had to rent this. Like all the other ones. How I did it, I'm not gonna say how I watched some of these, but I watched them. Sure. This one nowhere. So
yeah, I mean, the movie is doing some different stuff, man. It has this is an adaptation loosely, just for those who don't know, of this book called The Double, and it is about a man who discovers his physical twin, and it's so brainy, man. This is a heady movie. The concept of the spider, of the tarantula, what it means is something to be interpreted. It's never explicitly said, and it's the last thing you see on the screen. So I just think I'm not even going to try to expand on this one or expound on this one, because at the end of the day, I don't want to spoil it. I think this is very much everybody's. It won't be your cup of tea if you don't like explicit content, if you don't want to see naked women, if you don't want to see nudity and artistic approaches to that concept because of the notions of sex and what themes of sex it's one of those. But at the same time, I followed Denis down this rabbit hole because of Prisoners. It's the only reason why I watched this. I wanted to move forward. And so I understand why this could be important going forward when we talk about movies like Arrival, for example.
Yeah, I mean, it jumped into his sci-fi nature a little bit too. Not fully, but something not regular, something not realistic. Yeah. Another thing is, bro, I think, again, if you on YouTube, you're going to see what I'm about to show. This dude be cooking with some posters.
Oh, yeah.
Look at this poster, bro.
Yeah, that's hard.
The concept of the spider, but he's holding his fingers like this, and then they flip it because of the dual character work.
Stupid.
Come on now, bro.
Stupid. And also, shout out A24, bro. They produced that bad boy, and this was before anybody was even talking about A24. They already knew what it was. They threw gas on that fire. I'm talking about, we said it earlier, these production companies, man. They can always say that they were in there with Denis when he was first getting ramped up as one of those top dogs. 2013 was when he was starting to heat up, man. And A24, it didn't even get a crazy amount of money in the box office, but the reviews on this film are just as high as a lot of the other ones. So let's move on to the other ones. Let's move on to one of the ones that, this is some people think this is his best because they don't like the sci-fi. They want something grounded. They want something realistic. Let's talk about Sicario, baby. Let's talk about Sicario now. Ooh, sheesh. We're talking about 2015. He took a year off, didn't do anything in 2014, comes back with Emily Blunt. He comes back with Benicio del Toro. He comes back
Josh Brolin.
With Brolin. And I also want you to recognize this. Taylor Sheridan wrote this movie. Taylor Sheridan wrote this movie. And so when we look at stuff like Spec Ops Lioness, we look at stuff like Hell or High Water, Yellowstone, the writing working together with the direction is money. Now we know that when Denis is in the writing, we're gonna get something sci-fi and brainy. But Taylor Sheridan is a very thematic writer, but in a grounded manner. He's all about the way a character stands for itself and stands for principles and themes. If you've seen anything he's done, he's also very much about conflicting worldviews. If you've seen Hell or High Water, it's Old West versus New West. So for Denis to lend his direction to this story written by Taylor, it was a very cool collaboration, bro. Very crazy collaboration. Did you know Taylor Sheridan wrote this?
No, and I think I've only ever heard of him because of your Lioness show. But yeah, I mean, this movie, like I said, I don't know if Denis is for me or other things like that, but like this is another one where I watched it and I'm like, okay, this was cool. This may be between this or Enemy be my least favorite. I'm not gonna lie. It's really not about least favorites. It's about the two that I know I don't really think I'm like, okay, whatever with. Like, I'm very much whatever with these. But here's something I found interesting, right? I watched this movie and I'm like, okay, I'm interested. I was interested at the first half of the movie, but by the end, I wasn't really checked in. I felt very tapped out. I like Emily Blunt, but I didn't know how I felt about her here. I almost felt very empty towards her in this role. But then after I look it up, I'm like, am I crazy? Like, am I bugging out? Do I need to? Some people are telling me that's the point. She's just there. And that's the purpose of the character. And I'm like, you know what? I could kind of see that. I could kind of see how that makes sense. All right, that's cool. But this is, again, another one similar to Enemy where I'm like, I watched this. I'm like, I can see it. I can understand it, respect it. But this one wasn't for me.
That's fair, bro. That's fair. But for whatever reason, this is one of those. It's probably because it's an action thriller. So as soon as you say action, as soon as you say thriller, and you put those two together, it already widens the amount of people that may want to see it. And so when you add an abstract filmography focused, the way things are kind of toned, mind to telling a story that's a neo-Western Mexican border story, you just get something crazy. If you don't know if you'd like this, if you want a teaser or a trailer, I just highly recommend, no context whatsoever, just type in Sicario highway traffic scene. There is a scene where there's a gunfight, and the way the scene is shot, everything you need to know about how the movie is toned, what it's about, why it's different, and why it's intriguing. I won't say anything else other than that. There are so many themes in this that I think, yes, Emily Blunt had to play a blank character for those themes to be conveyed properly, being that we see her often. But Benicio del Toro in this film is just, he's always been amazing, right? He's always the usual suspects, right? Like, this dude knows how to play a witty, sneaky, funny, but also intriguing, dangerous, scary character all at the same time. The Collector, when you're looking at the concept of like, why do I like you, but you kind of creep me out at the same time? He's so good at those roles. What it means for him culturally to play the character he stands as, what it means for, I got friends that are Mexican that love this film because it plays homage to Mexican culture, slums, the way that they do that. They just, it's really well done, bro. The whole film is really well done. Pacing is insane. And I was at the edge of my seat the entire film. I'm like, yo, this a thriller for real.
The opening got me, bro. Like when you see the bodies in the wall, like I'm like, yo, what the fuck is going on here, bro? Okay. But like I said, the more it unraveled, the less interested I seemed to get in it, weirdly enough.
Sure.
But I mean, I like the end of the movie. It very much just signifying that Emily Blunt, all due respect, you ain't about this life, girl. And that's what he was testing her on, right?
Mm-hmm.
He basically said, like, yo, you ain't shit. And then she tried, and he turned around and was like, are you? And she lowered her gun. And he was like, oh, you ain't. Got it. And from my understanding, there's more movies in this that he didn't come back to direct. She didn't return to, which to me, I'm like, okay, cool. It sounds like I'm not missing anything by not continuing this.
Not at all.
But I see the appeal. I can see the appeal. I know people have said that this movie has some takes regarding drugs in general and how to lower cartel. And I don't know. I know what my favorite. I know that that's very real. That's very real, of course. But cartel stories for me, they're different in my mind after certain television series too.
Understandable. Yeah, I think I loved Emily Blunt here. We got Daniel Kaluuya, or Kalua. Is it Kaluuya? You know what I'm talking about. John Bernthal's in here. Come on, man.
Come on, son. Like that I was there. Man. I was there for that because I'm there for John Bernthal. Like we love John Bernthal here. I got one of these around here. I got a version of him somewhere in my room.
Just fire, bro. Great movie. I highly recommend you watch it. It's in his top 5, in my opinion. I know we're only talking about 6 films, but it's higher up there more than it's down at the bottom. Let's move on. Let's talk about a big one. Let's talk about how the next year after 2015, he came back in 2016. And this time he worked with another female lead by the name of Amy Adams. And we also got Hawkeye himself, Jeremy Renner, in a movie called Arrival. And this is when we get into a very serious American science fiction, sci-fi to the T film. But it's also kind of philosophical and political and a lot of ulls because of how it's written. Dude, have you seen this film? When you saw this film, when did you watch it? How did you feel about this one, bro?
I saw this film in July of 2023.
Okay.
So I'll tell you this, bro. Walking out of the movie, the only thing on my mind, and this is going to be completely unfair to the movie, this is because I watched it late, right? I had to then go sit on thoughts, read the analysis and everything. The only thing in my mind walking out of that movie was, so that's where that song from the Bill and Frank episode of The Last of Us season 1 on HBO came from that made me cry. That song, plus the visuals of Bill and Frank going, getting married, all of that came from. That's fire. So that's not a fault of the movie to say, right? But what I'm speaking on is the music of the movie. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought that was very beautiful. But then I dived into the analysis and what is the movie trying to speak on? And I'm like, I couldn't find my respect for the movie, right? Similar to Prisoners, we spoke about endings, right? I don't know if you want to go into that. Can I?
No, I mean, again, it's hard. That's the thing about this conversation where it's like, I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, I think we have to dive into that a little bit on this one.
Okay. So for me, it was like the spoiler, the beginning of this movie is the end of the movie played at the start of the movie. But what it did for us watching the movie is it set us up to connect with Amy Adams, right? As she goes into her work that day of the college and they're like, yo, turn the TV on. And she seems very like not giving a crap about what she's doing. You're meant to think, well, yeah, I wouldn't give a shit either if I had to go teach a class after losing my teenage daughter. No, she just really didn't give a shit that day because her teenage daughter was not a thing. And I think that relates to the theme of the movie about communication.
Yep.
And the perception of communication, because what you're perceiving is not the truth. And that's what the aliens, I forget their name,
the heptapods,
are there to tell you. They're there to help you understand perception and communication. So to have that be the theme of your movie and immediately start by giving you a false perspective to force you to like a character, then reveal that the beginning was the end, I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
That was dope. That was dope. But besides that, bro, once again, here we have a movie where I can walk out and say, yo, that was good, but it just wasn't for me. It once again wasn't for me. Even we didn't even mention like Forrest Whitaker, right?
No.
He's in this?
Yeah, he is. Forrest Whitaker's in here too.
I mean, good actors, great moments, but like, it wasn't, it's not for me. I'd always heard these big things. And so when I got there, I'm like, I'm a little sad that I don't feel the way other people do. And in moments like that, I'm like, I've tried my hardest to, so it's not a me problem. And I also don't think it's a director problem. I just think there's not a connection there. But the hand alien things are kind of weird. The communication patterns, all that, there's stuff there that I'm like, oh, that was crazy. But I think I can say like I enjoyed this, while also I wouldn't necessarily watch it again. Like, I don't know if this is something I would return to. But I will never know until I actually just go and return to it with all these analyses in my head.
Word. I feel that. Yeah, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life, me personally. I just think like you're taking such a crazy concept conceptually, right? Like, it is such a, just trying to even speak to the plot without showing you how they speak to the plot is so hard, because it's not just something you see, it's something you read and something you feel and something you think and something you watch develop in these characters. And the concept of Amy Adams's character being a linguistics professor and specialist recruited to speak with aliens as a simple plot line is wild, but it's bigger than you could even imagine. And I remember leaving after you get this idea of her then being able to teach mankind how to communicate through time the way that they taught her to, because she understands it from them, and it creating a complete dynamic of what's good and what's evil, what's right and what's wrong. And then the timeline from the beginning of the end of the movie, it leaves you with a lot of questions. And I remember being outside the mall's theater in Palisades Mall in Nyack, New York, with the boys, just talking about, philosophically, what does this mean? Like, if we had this kind of a concept, how does this concept play into faith? Does it deepen our faith as Christians? As politically, would you see things politically in a different lanes? Like, you could take the same concept and drop it into so many different topics. And I think, again, man, it takes me back to what I said about Denis earlier. He leaves you with something to turn in your brain on, to think about, to conceptualize. And it's best enjoyed with other people, because I think bouncing those thoughts off of other people helps to enhance what it is that he's trying to present to you. And then when you think of what you just said, how perspective is important, it's so meta. He's creating something so deep through all of the movie that then leaves the theater with you, that deepens itself as you go. Yeah. And I think that that's an accomplishment as a film. And not everyone can do that. Not everyone needs to. Not every movie needs to be like that. Movies can be slapstick, fun, enjoyable, action, boom, bap. But here we are now, 1, 2, 3, 4 movies into our main 6. It's been 3 years, and he's shown he can do an American thriller that's action. He can do a sci-fi noir film. He could do this. He could do straight up sci-fi. Like, this is an American sci-fi film. They're talking to aliens, and he could do a thriller that's dark and psychological, like Prisoners. This guy can't be beat, bro. He's touched like 4 different things so far. And I'm like, damn, I don't know how you're going to top this. I really left the theater like, I'm emotional. I don't know how you could do better. How could you do better? That's how I felt when I left, me personally. And I know my boys felt similarly, and I think that helps. That helps for sure when you with a bunch of people that are like on that gas with you. 100%.
I don't. This is the first time I've ever spoke about this movie with anyone, and I saw it 9 months ago, right? Like, yeah. I mean, all this to say, I know we'll hit leaderboard or ranked lists later for these movies, but I mean, there's 6 of them, and I can say, and this is going to be a hot take as we move into our next film, that this would be top 3.
Okay. I could take that. I could take a top 3. At this point, I'm like, man, how is he going to even top this? Don't really know how he's going to top this. It was just so good. But that year, we did get an announcement that in 2017, we would be getting another adaptation, a sequel to Blade Runner. And we know Blade Runner, the initial one with Harrison Ford, directed by Ridley Scott, is also one of the highly revered sci-fi films talking about the future. It's a cult classic. I would go as far as say it's a cult classic to a lot of people. So here's Denis now going from making these very unique and brand new IP concepts, as much as some of them were loosely adapted or inspired by other stories. Like, this is one of those movies where, like, you're coming from another movie and doing essentially a sequel. That's kind of wild. How are you going to make your spin and your mark on this when there's already kind of rules to this game? Then we start hearing who's in it. Ryan Gosling. You're like, hold up, wait. Ryan Gosling? You gonna do what with who? Anna de Armas? Shawty was starting to heat up in 2017. She was starting to go crazy back then, bro. This is like a 5-year stretch where she started doing like 007s and she started doing like Knives Out, like she was cooking. I'm like, she playing AI? That's crazy. You seeing these trailers and this cyberpunk aspect with the nicest tech. Cause remember, bro, the OG one, that one was in the 90s. They didn't have the tech to rip off a lot. At then it was big. But when you watch it going back, you're like, you can see it's dated. It has that vintage, that vibe, that classic vibe. But bro, it's 2017. We got tech. We got new things. And you know Denis is great with his composition on his shots, bro. I remember that picture came out with the all orange and it had Gosling with the sweater that's up on his nose. And it's just him looking like this and the car behind him. Everyone was losing their marbles over that picture, bro. They were all like, oh shit. And then it was announced that freaking Harrison Ford would be returning and that the antagonist of the film would be Jared Leto. And then it started feeling like, okay, we might be getting a symphony flick. We might be getting a flick that has opportunity for you to leave and be like, yo, that was a moment. Okay. What do you think about Blade Runner before I go off? Because you already know how I'm heating up. I'm
going to let you heat up but I'm going to ask that you don't bring any of that heat my way. All right.
That's fine. Ready? I thought Blade Runner was amazing, and yet it is one of my least favorite in all 6.
Okay. It is also one of my least favorite.
But let me tell you why.
6.
Let me tell you why. Hold on. Let me tell you why. It's because everything else is just so great.
Oh, okay.
Everything else is just so great that I have no choice.
For me, I watched the original Blade Runner in December of 2022. Didn't care for it. It was one of those movies where I was like, yeah, maybe this isn't my genre. This is like towards the beginning of like, people swore that I would love this. You know, I'm talking like OG 1982. This ain't for me, bro. This ain't for me. But I'm hearing that this new one is one of the greatest movies of all time, right? And so I'm like, let me go in there. And I watched it with a friend of mine, AI. Funny enough, that's his nickname. And I liked it more than 82's Blade Runner, but just barely. And I had this need to feel like I needed to rewatch it because of how much I didn't care for the movie. I feel like I missed something. People use it as like this inspirational thing to make them better in society and feel like they can drive to be better in many aspects. And I'm like, I didn't feel any of that at all. I felt like I was watching Ryan Gosling chase ghosts for 2 hours that just kind of ended at some point. And yeah, visually stunning film. Probably one of the best visually I've ever seen. But it also is my introduction to a problem that I have found in other films from this director, and it's mixing audio. Now, I edit podcast. I edit CUZZO-OP, right? And so, you know, I'm not one to talk about audio editing and mixing, right? Like I am just some random dude who is trying his best, right? But dialogue in his films get lost sometimes. I feel like the atmosphere's music or just noise sometimes overshadows his films in a weird way. And I noticed that here. And then the music and sound effects of this movie at times are levels of blowing your eardrums out in ways where I'm like, you can't take the volume from 0 to 100 like that, bro, because now I have whiplash. And it happened like 7 or 8 times in Blade Runner, where at some point me and AI just looked at each other and we was like dying laughing, because it was like Harrison Ford, like, yeah, and then we're going to go do this and we're going to go do that. And then boom, a car blows up in your ear and you're like, oh shoot. Like, but point being, I've noticed he has a weird audio thing sometimes where I'm like, yo, you could have taken that dialogue and just put the volume a little bit higher and we would have been all good. But yeah, I don't care for this movie the way other people do. And I'm sorry if that upsets you, if you're listening. And I can't tell you why. I'll listen to why you love it, but it did nothing for me. And when I say nothing, I mean absolutely nothing for me.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, I think it's not that it didn't do anything for me, because for me, I like the I think it's beautiful. I think it's an experience. The entire movie is an experience. And, you know, the concept what you're saying with sound, also very understandable. Part of why I say that is because this is a complaint that Nolan gets a lot, man. He gets this complaint too, that, you know, what's up with your dialogue, dog? We can't hear you. I just went to go see 70mm Tenet with my boy George and my boy Timmy just the other night. And we went to go see it, and we were leaving, and George was like, yo, bro, I understood maybe 70% of what was being said. At least a 30% of the dialogue in this film, I have no idea what they were talking about. You got the all big, and I can't hear it. And then you look at these interviews, and a lot of what these directors like Nolan and Denis say is that the dialogue isn't as important as the music in that moment. And they didn't want that to be distracted. They wanted you to be distracted by the music, because the music is the star, not the dialogue. And it's a stylistic choice that has existed for a number of years in film. But the issue is, there's not everyone that wants that. Like I said, not everybody wants to look at a tree shot on a car on top of a character. They're just going to be like, was this B-roll? Other people are going to consume it like, oh, what's he trying to say with this shot?
Yeah.
And the people who want to consume to that degree, I think in Blade Runner in particular, will be having, there's a feast in there. There's a feast in there.
Sure. It just feels jarring compared to other directors who use it in a very more tasteful way. Like I said, again, I'm talking, it was Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford having a conversation with each other. And then it kicked in so fast, which to be fair, it's meant for the characters, but it took me away from the next 15, 20 seconds of the film to readjust, because you hit me with it in a way that I'm just like, that didn't feel good. You know, yep. Oppenheimer, when it did that to you, it felt good. I feel like Nolan knew how to use music then. To be fair to Tenet, also, a lot of the audio mixing was done pandemic. They were talking about how it was weird. Some of them had to plug in like Apple headphones to be able to finish the job.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. It was just the first place where I noticed it being a little bit distracting, and where I found it in other areas as well.
Sure. Yeah, and I think, you know, just kind of pivoting back also to what you said earlier of people say, you know, to be a better person. This world that Denis jumped into with this story and continued the story of is filled with a lot of themes, concepts, like most cyberpunky concepts of dystopian future often has. It's a lot of social commentary is involving a movie like this. You know what I mean? Where do we end up as we continue to evolve? You know, there's, you know, what's right, what's wrong. There's political concepts. There's corporate and capitalism concepts that they talk about here, the police force and fighting the grime on the streets and what that means as a cop, and what you see and you let go and you don't let go as time goes on. And the worst, what we see as the worst, becomes the norm. That kind of concept is very much at the forefront. It was in the old flick in the 80s, and it is in this one. Feminism is in this one when it talks to the technology being able to stop childbirth, cloning. There's a lot of concepts, right? We got what's right, what's wrong. I think about the creator that we talked about last year, and this whole notion of like technology people versus actual humans, and that notion is throughout the whole film as well. What is human? What does it mean to be human? So to have a lot of lore in that environment, and then for Denis to deepen it through everything he did, it is not easy to do that. It shows technique as a director. And I think that is why this film is often championed as something so remarkable. And to be honest, we're doing this whole episode in preparation of Dune 2. I think that is what we're going to see highly on display in Dune 2, because as we talk about Dune, which I think is now the best time to jump into right now. Let's just jump right into Dune right now. Like, we're talking about a book series that is so stacked with lore, so stacked with concepts that you have to live in this space to even understand it a little bit. You know what I mean? When we think about Dune, he took 2, 3, that movie came out in 2021. And we were getting stacked flicks from him from 2013. He skipped 2014, but he got 2 movies in 2013. 2015, 2016, 2017, stop. All right, if I'm going to do Dune, then I'm going to do Dune right.
Right.
2021. He didn't just direct this. His last couple films, he had just directed while other people wrote it, other people produced it. He is directing, he is writing, he is producing the whole thing. This is his magnum opus, actually. This is like when Nolan took on The Dark Knight, but like way more serious for Denis and his filmography, to be honest with you. But in terms of the size of who wants to see this film, there is a lot of people who live in the sci-fi area that like, they went in here going, they better not fuck the story. They went in there like, yo, he better not fuck up my story. A lot of people love Dune, bro.
Yeah. And there are some that state that he still fucked it up. I'm not going to lie to you. But general audiences, more or less, praise the movie. But it's so interesting to see that there are Dune fans that still say, yeah, no, I don't like it. For me, I watched this movie for the first time as of, our release of when we're dropping this, like 4 days ago. A week before Dune 2 comes out. I've heard takes of that movie was so boring in the first 30 minutes, I stopped it. And I understand that. I've heard takes of that movie was just a wannabe this. And I'm like, but you could say that about everything. You could say that Star Wars is a wannabe Dune, or that Lord of the Rings is a wannabe something else, right? So I went in with an open mind, open heart of just saying, well, Dune 2's coming out, so he did something right. And I enjoyed the movie. I think it's the only other film that we've spoken about today that I can confidently say, finishing it, that I enjoyed it. I didn't need to go look into any deeper other things to say, oh yeah, I get it. No, I enjoyed this one. But I am also willing to hear all the critiques, because could it be boring to someone if this isn't their type of movie? Yes. What got me in was lore. We've spoken about it before. I love lore. I love world building. I love a good cast, and that's what this movie had. Oscar Isaac,
Stacked.
Josh Brolin again,
Stacked.
Timothy Chalamet, which I feel like people don't give him enough credit for.
He's going to get his Oscar this year.
Or chill, bro. We're not talking Dune 2 yet, bro. You don't even know. You haven't even seen Dune 2.
He's going to get it. I got no doubts.
Bias, y'all. When next year, I'm marking that down as bias. I don't know.
Wonka wasn't going to do it for him.
That feels weird. Ivy. I'm not going to lie to you.
Don't Look Up wasn't going to do it for him.
Mr. Timothy, I think I saw, as some people in his own family say, that's his name. But then we also have something that I was surprised about, bro. Zendaya being in the movie for 5 minutes when she was featured in every trailer. I was shocked. And then back to Jason Momoa or Stellan Skarsgård, or David Dost, as we like to call him, bro. Batista, the best wrestler actor.
Oh yeah,
without a question
We
in my
didn't even talk
mind,
about him
bro.
back in Cyberpunk. I mean, in Blade Runner. That scene in Blade Runner was fire. Anyways, yeah.
Dune was enjoyable to me. It's very much a slow burn movie, leading to what hopefully Dune 2 has. I know we're not there yet, but hopefully that Dune 1 is out of the way. And they've built the platform for this franchise to stand on. Now they can do work on that platform, go crazy. I enjoyed Dune.
Yeah, man, I saw this flick with the boys. We drove all the way to a Jersey theater after COVID had just kind of started wrapping up in terms of being able to be in the theater. Because this was 2021, you know. I think it's the second time I went to the movies in that like year and a half. First time being Tenet. I'm dedicated to these two. I'm gonna be real with you. I immediately, bro, Lord of the Ring vibes for me. We're talking about an epic. This is an epic. This is the definition of an epic. And so when I think of like an epic, I think it's not just grace you have to give a movie. The hard part about this movie is that there is so much world building that needs to happen that I would almost say that in order for me to truly appreciate it, I had to have seen it twice. And I had to see it with the subtitles the second time. Because the first time I took it like I took a lot of other things that Denis and Nolan often say about their films. They're meant to be experienced. They're not meant to be analyzed while you're in it. They're meant to just be kind of like, whatever it presents to you, however it feels, just go for the ride. And I think that's what I did the first time I saw Dune. I very much tried to just kind of go for the ride, let my heart follow, you know, what Paul Atreides is going to be going for. And I think that at the end, even if I loosely didn't understand certain things about the spice war and the concepts of certain planets and people who were politically trying to like things I didn't get to really piece together until I started to have subtitles. I could read, I could understand, I could follow along lines. Okay, I could look up, analyze. It got better when I did that. But the first time, by the time they get to the conclusion, and this got to fight, and when them got to fight, as the day is on the screen, I was
Javier Bardem.
I will be back. I will be back. And I'll tell you while I was like Terminator, I'll be back. Like I was like, I'll be back for this second one. And you know why, bro? Because you feel invested by the end. People can say whatever they want. It took me 3 watches. It took me 2 watches. I fell asleep when I was watching it. Hey man, watch this shit in the middle of the day then, bro. Watch it when you wake up on a Saturday morning and put it on and eat your breakfast to it. Like, whatever you need to do as a handicap to get through this, do it. Because what's funny is back then when the 3-hour Lord of the Rings movies came out and they were straight fantasy, not sci-fi, because that was what was big at that time. Everybody understood how critically acclaimed this needed to be in time, especially when the second and third hit. When the Return of the King hit, it clapped so hard, bro. It hit so hard that everyone went back and watched the first, second, and third in preparation. And this is what happens with trilogies. You know what I mean? So I feel like I'm now entering, this is a Denis episode, the mind of Denis. All right. I want to build out something that is meaningful with the world. I want to touch on themes, not just with dialogue, but with shots. I want to speak to cultures with shots, black and white shots of specific beings, all sand shots to talk about the sandy areas that they're working to collect these spices. I want to have mountainsides that put the picture of Oscar Isaac and it feel royal and big. He's able to do so many big dimensions and small moments throughout this film that only Denis can do, in my opinion. That I would actually argue I don't know another director that I think would have been able to do this the way he's done it and it feel not pretentious. It doesn't feel like a show. This feels like we're getting a glimpse at another planet, an actual war. happening somewhere. Like, and that is the thing that's crazy. So when people compare it to Star Wars, I can't agree with that, because these are Star Wars has a lot of very human stories, but it's in a world very far, far away. Like, that's the whole concept. It's open your mind to this world that we'll travel to. It has that fantasy notion like we talked about. This feels straight sci-fi to its complete core, but then you're kind of like, is this sci-non-fi? Like, what's going on, bro?
It felt like a different type of fantasy for me. They running in the castle. They fighting with blades. They fighting with daggers, not lightsabers, not blasters, not even guns like that. They fighting with blades. Right? Like, they moving through the sand. The damn airplanes they got feel very weird, like, but real at the same time. Yeah, I get it, bro. This did feel like a Lord of the Rings, but set in sci-fi. Which is another movie franchise I need to go back to, because I also don't really feel big on those movies either. But yeah, Dune was interesting. I think that's the one thing I found it very interesting. Yeah. I'm excited to see where this story continues, because from my understanding of where the story is now destined to go, things are going to actually be moving in a pace where people's complaints might be answered from this first movie.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you just got to get over the hurdle, right? And so I feel like this wasn't a bad hurdle for me to get over. But I'm also not going to sit here and act like I'm excited to go watch Dune 2 either, because I'm not even convinced if I'm going to do that yet. So
yeah, and I know you, Arrow, you always got to do the opposite of what the masses are doing. That's just your vibe sometimes, you know.
I think it's hilarious that coming from you.
Respectfully.
I think you do that more personally than I do.
Maybe.
I just want to put that out there.
I defensive, think bro.
When I'm just saying, you funny when it's not your opinion.
Hey, listen, all I'm gonna say is this. I have not seen a single negative review of this movie just yet, and I'm sure that I can find it if I look. But
of Dune?
Of Dune 2.
Hey, you jumped the shit, bro. I know what you're talking about, bro.
You were talking about going to see it, and if you want to see it or not, I'm going to go see it. I'm very much looking forward to Dune 2 because of Dune. I think.
Are you getting that ugly ass popcorn button?
Hell no. You wish. Come on, bro. They want with that. But
that joint go crazy.
Dune is one of those ones. I really do think it is. You know, I think it might be for a particular type of person, but what it sounds like from what we're hearing when it comes to Dune 2 and what we're looking forward to from that end is a extension. If you stuck with the first film and you stuck with the world building and you learned it, if you learned it as a viewer, then it all pays off. Is basically what a lot of people are saying. It pays off. It doesn't need to set up much more world. It's more like it adds to a world already built. So I like that. You know, it gives me Empire Strikes Back. That's what a lot of people are also saying. It gives me the Two Towers. You know what I mean? Like it's I'm already with the gang. I'm already bought in. I already know I'm about to see him ride that Zendaya about to Javier. They're saying this is Javier shit. They're saying Javier Bardem. This is the best him since No Country. And I said, dog, that boy was in Skyfall. Like, that's my guy. When that guy is on screen, bro, this dude is captivating. We have so many and yo, the last thing is this. We have seen a lot of protagonists, positive versions of Austin Butler. And he's had a lot of moments where people have talked about how great of an actor he is. We saw that what he did with Elvis was crazy, right? Like, here he is, and they're saying that he is one of the best antagonists since Heath Ledger himself. There's crazy statements being made about this movie, bro. And to me, it just makes me go, okay, I'm just showing up looking for a sequel to what I saw in the first flick. That's my expectation. Mm-hmm. We'll take it from there. But it just really feels like and seems like the world is very excited about this film right now, man.
I got a question for you. Are you going into this movie already wanting to love it at 1 million?
Nah, I'm going into this movie, like I said, when I went in to go see the first Hobbit film, and then I saw Desolation of Smaug, I went in wanting to see this story continue. And I left Desolation of Smaug when I heard Ed Sheeran go, "Oh, misty high up the mountain below," at the end of the credits. I said, yo, this flick was fire. Like, I want that vibe. Like, I want a vibe where it's like, man, the story goes on, and the best part is there's more story. That's what I want. That's all I want.
Okay. So you don't have the pre-tweet Dune 2 was fire ready to go?
Nah, it's not. Okay, it's not already rewritten, pre-written.
Good, because I seen some people out there that I can tell are very much like they getting paid to. They ready with that tweet. They want to do it just because they know it'll gain traction. You know, because Twitter be paying people now in some areas. But I also know some people that genuinely came out and said, "Yo," I know someone that was at a pre-showing in New York, and they were like, "This is one of them ones." And so I said, I got to hear from more people, but I will take that from you because this is someone that I know that they watch movies like no tomorrow. Like, so I was like, you got it, bro. You got it. I'm there for a good movie. I'm already locked in. I'm there. I don't know if I'm in theaters. You know what I'm saying? Because it's still kind of weird to be pulling up to the theater and walking in alone to go watch with a popcorn bucket with someone next to me with the Dune one. That'd be weird. You know what I'm saying?
You're a clown, bro.
Plus, I don't really have like the 70 millimeter things close by to me in areas that I particularly care to go. But
I don't even think it's. Just go see it in IMAX when you see it, bro. I feel like you got to see it.
I don't even have IMAX like that, bro, either, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I live in New York City, though.
Tell G-Ma when she goes up to go north, you drop you at the Palisades, bro. Go
and
see
just
that.
leave me there for 3 hours. That might be. I could hit to the Palisades on my own. I could do that.
It's a vibe. You need that IMAX experience.
So we'll see if I go for Dune 2. We'll see. I wasn't convinced by the movie alone, but again, I only recently just watched it. I haven't let it fully
percolate.
Go in, simmer. If there's one thing that I did have to say, I hope is answered in this next movie or brought to the screen, it is Paul's purpose. Put that, and I know I'm going to get that. That's the one thing I've heard. Timothée Chalamet is another actor who I think is highly slept on. I think because he's a young pretty boy, people think that that's all he is, but he's not. All right? He's not just a young pretty boy. He's backing up the reason why he's casting so much, you know?
Yeah.
You know, he's not, all due respect to Tom Holland, he's not Tom Holland.
Nah.
You know, Tom Holland has proven himself, in my opinion, in his Spider-Man movies. And then that's it, you know, entirely truthful. Timothy from Interstellar all the way to Dune, I'm like, I'm gonna watch your career with great interest.
Yeah,
because you cool.
I hope he gets the Oscar this year,
bro.
So far, we'll see.
What you mean? You haven't even seen the movie, bro. You can't say so far.
Just off the fact that you're right, Timothée Chalamet has a career that I think needs to stop being slept on, and I think him as a young actor, bro. It reminds me of Leo. I feel like people must have thought similarly about Leo when he was doing Titanic and when he was doing.
That's his mentor, low key.
Exactly. So it's like, that's cool. I like that. And I also think that when it comes to Denis, bro, he knows how to maximize the actors and the actresses that he is writing for. And so that's another unique perspective we get out of all of the films we talked about tonight. This is the first one where he gets to return to the same cast with the same people and expand and go crazier on what he's doing. And it's not the last one. We're getting another one. So I'm excited, man. All right, so let's take these Denis films real quick and let's just put them in your top 5. What are your top 5 Denis films in light of our conversation this evening, Arrow?
I'm going to work backwards. I guess this is hard.
Very much.
I really only want to give you a top 3. I'm going to be honest.
That's fine.
3, Arrival. 2 is Dune, and 1 is Prisoners.
Okay.
But enjoyment straight out, Prisoners loved, and Dune enjoyed.
Word.
And that's that for me. But I respect all the same.
I think I would say top 5, No, I'm not even gonna put Enemy in there that's just like number 6 for sure. Right behind that for number 5 would be Blade Runner 2049. Beautiful film. Is it up at the top for me? No. But is it better than Enemy? Yes, for me, for sure. After Blade Runner, I would definitely put Sicario. 100%. You know, the first time you experience that movie is an incredible time. You can't go back and experience it again and it be the same. That's the thing that sucks. Like, it's not like there's something to return to. So that's why I put that there. Third one that I'm going to put is going to have to be Dune. I put that at number 3. Second one, Prisoners. Easy. I couldn't sleep. I was up.
Watch it again. Right in your house, bro. Right in your scary house, bro.
Sick in my stomach. Sick to my stomach. Arrival's my favorite for sure from Denis. I think he was able to do something incredible in that. So, not very, very many directors can do what Denis does on a daily, on a yearly, such a high level. And it makes a lot of sense that Paramount would come and give him the budget he has to make such an insane epic right now when it comes to Dune. We're really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. Willie gonna see it, and we're gonna see what it does for movies this year. I'm excited to hear about those conversations.
Yeah,
you know, I remember when Star Wars was being brought up we talk about the stories and the written pieces on Star Wars popping up at the Oscars. That's crazy conceptually. You know what I mean? So that's cool.
I mean, for me, I really like that he came out and stated that I know what the third movie is called. It's called Dune Messiah. And he came out and said, I'm going to take my time. He said, you're not getting this until I'm ready. And I love when directors do that. Fuck a studio deadline, because they'll rush you and put out some shit. You make what you got to do. And that to me is special. It means that I know that you're treating what you're doing as something special, which interests me more. So Dune 2, however I decide to watch it, whenever I decide to watch it, no matter what, I know that it's something special that was being created, which enough to me already speaks that it's, at least I know it's what you wanted to put out. So
meaningful, man. Last question I wanted to ask, because we did it in the Nolan episode, is there any particular actor that you would like to see Denis work with once he's done with Dune? Or even if they add him, I mean, there's a lot of new actors and actresses for this second film. Like we said, Austin Butler has joined. We've got Florence Pugh has joined, the princess. Yeah, there's a lot of different things a lot of different actors that I think would fit with Denis. But I'll let you go first if you have any off the top of your head.
I don't want to cheat and keep my same actors from Nolan, right? But I always like to see what people do with Rami Malek. But
that'd be perfect.
Truth be told, Tom Holland. And I know some people may have just rolled their eyes, but what can a director of this status do with someone who has more or less been used in a very similar way? Can a director of great presence pull something out of him? Pull a presence out of him that maybe he's not getting from his other directors. Maybe he's not getting that from whoever directed Uncharted. Someone who's going to ask something different from him. So, yeah, that'll be my weird answer just because I brought him up and I feel like he deserves a spot with someone who's going to try and take advantage of him in a different light.
I like that. I think if I had to say 2, I would say I would like to see Robert Downey Jr. work with Denis. You know, Robert Downey Jr. is entering into this part of his career where he's taking certain projects that I think it reminds me a lot of. They're gonna hate me over this one, but you know, J. Cole never had to release half of the music he's released in the last 2 years to prove he's great. He was already great to begin with, and I think Robert Downey Jr. by the time he completed his time as Tony Stark, he had a plethora of movies before then in the story that he had created. I think he's in this time in his life as an actor where he's doing weird projects, and it's like for him, and it's like, I'm proving I'm nice. Stop playing with me. and he did that with Strauss and Oppenheimer, I think it would be really cool to see him also work with this giant of a director as well. I would love that. Another person, man, is Dylan O'Brien. I would love to see Styles from Teen Wolf, you know, your boy Thomas from Maze Runner come through and do something, anything with Denis. Another person, like you're saying with Tom Holland, where I just feel like he hasn't been casted and taken seriously and seen as the gem or slept on. He slept on, he's just a slept on actor is what I'm trying to say, bro. He's done a lot of weird movies in the last couple of years. And I think it's because if a Nolan or Denis saw this man, bro, and said, all right, yo, we'll give you a shot, I don't think we'd be sad.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. I want to add someone to your Downey pick. If he got Downey on board, I'd want to see how this particular actor works opposed to Downey. Or they could just be alone. It don't matter to me. Adam Driver.
Yeah, for sure. Driver's a weird one, man. He's a beast. He's doing some crazy stuff right now, too. Yeah, man. I think at the end of the day, Denis is, I got to tip my hat to him. Hit my mic, but tip my hat. You know what I mean? He's one of those directors that is a once in a lifetime director, in my opinion. I think it's very cool that we get to say this. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and we were just talking about how Scorsese has 20 plus movies that make him who he is. You know, Killers of the Flower Moon is just the latest. It's like number 23 or 24, something like that. But he did Shutter Island. He did Shark Tale. He did Taxi Driver. He's The Godfather. Like, he's done so many movies that are insane. And we are in the first 6 of Denis' filmography. We are in the first 9 or 8 of Nolan's filmography. These are directors that we're getting to see start up. When they're gray-haired still making films, they're only going to get better, is my hope, man. So it's really cool to have an opportunity to talk through this filmography. We're really looking forward to Dune 2. You're talking to two people who are always going to geek out about these kinds of concepts. But that's really just what you get every time you tune in to an episode of CUZZO-OP, right? You're always going to find 2 cousins, 1 podcast, and endless entertainment. Peace.